I think we are ready. Testing, testing. Am I live? I would assume so. Let me know if y'all could hear me. If I need to turn the volume up or down or whatever. Not gonna be on here for too long. Just gonna have a quick, maybe an hour or so stream. Share some random thoughts and have a good time all around. I was actually looking into playing music, but everything I saw, because I don't monetize my stuff, right? But everything I saw was like you could still get like a copyright strike and get your channel taken down and all these different things. So even though I'm just trying to chill, listen to some music, chat with the chat, and identify every UN member state on the map, as one does, unfortunately, I can't really take that risk. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started while we are playing along here. As we all know, Belize is over here. If anything, I suppose I would open the discussion with thoughts on the concept of the left, right? So not the left, the West. The left, that's a whole different conversation. But crap. See, I can't click on it properly. I know what Switzerland is, don't worry. I think my issue with the West, actually no, before I get into my issue with the West, let me hear if you folks have any thoughts. If folks have any thoughts on the West as a concept. Laos. I could play copyright-free music, but actually, let me see if I can find some. Copyright-free music. I'm not really feeling any of these. Jazz. But then again, like, copyright-free jazz tends to be kind of flavorless. Not lo-fi. Anyway, if I find anything, my favorite genre of music is currently my favorite genre of music is like that kind of 80s alt rock sound. I've been really appreciating it. Also, I'm not sure what genre Phil Collins falls into, but I've been listening to a lot of Phil Collins lately. I've also been listening to a lot of Marvin Gaye. Just brilliant stuff. And I suppose more contemporarily, I actually haven't been listening to much like recent music, other than the stuff that occasionally goes viral and becomes like an heirloom for me. Like, you know, the stuff that goes viral on TikTok, the occasional song here and there that I pick up on. But lately I've been listening to that sort of old soul kind of music. And also, well, anything Phil Collins has done. And for the most part, I kind of recycle my albums. I listen to a lot of MF Doom, a lot of Jaden Smith, a lot of Toby Lou, a lot of Frank Ocean, a lot of Charles Gambino, a lot of Willow, a lot of Paramore, and a lot of Tame Impala. And for on the more obscure side of things, there's this guy called Jelani Aryeh. I find he does some fantastic stuff, so I listen to a lot of his work as well. And also Kate Renata. I had to be bumping some Kate Renata every once in a while. Yeah, right. I'm getting some responses here to the West. Embodiment of colonial hegemony, hate it. Um, Name one good food that comes from the West. The most colonialist parts of the West end up making other parts even included, even they're doing their own thing. Trying to find another alternative. The concept of the West, considering the Americas, leaves out the indigenous population. I'm so glad that you bring that up. So, I mean, I've never really liked the term West because I've always felt it to be just kind of like an excuse to, how do you say, like say white people without saying white people. So I've seen maps of the West that are like, oh yeah, Canada is the West, and the US is the West, and South Africa is the West, and Australia is the West, and New Zealand is the West. I mean, South Africa isn't always included, but there are like versions of the West where they're like, yeah, we'll throw in South Africa. Sometimes they might even say Argentina. Sometimes, and of course they'll probably maintain like the sort of iron curtain when it comes to the West as well. So they would say, like France and like the UK and Germany and that kind of thing. That's the West, right? I've also seen like some maps of the West that somehow include Japan, but that's probably because some of these. I mean, that's probably because of where I'm getting some of these maps, which is on Reddit of all places. Probably not the best source of those sorts of maps. But I'm particularly frustrated by the term West because not only is it lacking in like precision, not only does it often appear to be a euphemism of white folks, it also just seems to be what's the word? What is the word? You see, I come on live and then I like lose half my vocabulary. Pejorative. It seems to be more of a pejorative, at least in certain circles, right? So you then hear like the term Western and Westerner being applied to situations where it doesn't even make sense, or applied to people it doesn't apply to. I understand, of course, there's some definitions of the West that include like all of the Americas. They just say, all of the Americas are the West because, we're the colonies of Europe or whatever the case may be, past and present colonies of Europe. I'm still not feeling it though. And what I think really makes it clear that the West is particularly meant to be a euphemism for white is that when you look at how, some people talk about Latin America, it's like, despite the fact that Latin America was founded by, or Latin America is filled with, successor states that inherited the legacy of like Roman culture and the Latin languages and legal traditions and all those different things, they're still excluded because they have, I suppose, African and indigenous influences that somehow, despite the fact that Canada and the US have those same influences, Canada and the US are included in the West while Latin America isn't. And so it doesn't gel with me. I don't like the term. I don't like its lack of precision. I don't like its euphemistic function. And I think it should be discarded. I don't think anybody should be using it, especially not people who are progressive. But that's just my opinion. And you know what they say about opinions. Let me see what else people are saying. Is global north a useful alternative? Yeah, but then I think any of these kind of terms end up being imprecise. So say for example, like the first world, second world, third world thing, right? In my social studies textbook, when I was a child, third world meant like poor countries, second world meant like developing countries, and first world meant developed countries. They then go into the context of, this was a division of the world based on the two opposing sides of the Cold War and the non-aligned movement, which was supposed to be the third world. That context was stripped away, and it just became like a sort of a weird way of designating countries, often superficially. Nowadays, you see discussions of global north and global south. In some ways, it's an accurate descriptor, but then also I feel as though, and by the way, the global north-south divide, for those who don't know, there's a specific. I can't type when I have the mic in my way, but the global north, global south divide was a particular line that some guy drew. So I could find it. If anybody remembers the name of the line, or the name of the person who drew it. Right, the Brandt line. So it's like, whoop, you go around New Zealand and Australia, and then you go back around, you go up, and then right? Developing, but it's trying to create this sort of weird dichotomy, right? Because, some of the countries that are included in the developed world here and the global north here are really in similar situations, particularly in the Eastern Bloc, really in similar situations in the Balkans, are really in similar situations to other countries in the so-called global south, right? But, they are in Europe, so I guess they're part of the global north. And similarly, the global south is all kind of lumped together in this really weird way, particularly by... I think it particularly ignores the vast disparities in wealth and in quality of life that people across the global south have. You have like on one end of the spectrum, like, this thing was developed, this line was drawn before South Sudan was a thing, right? But you have on one end of the spectrum, places like South Sudan and lost my train of thought. You have on one end of the spectrum places like South Sudan, places like Iran, places like Afghanistan, places like, Myanmar currently, or Burma if you prefer. And on the other end of the spectrum, you have places like Panama and Trinidad and Tobago and China. Even within China, you have these vast disparities and like this lifestyles and stuff. I just feel it, and then even when you get into like, such as within the global north, right? There's this term that people use called fourth world. It's meant to apply to like the situation in these extremely wealthy countries where you have these horrific slum-like conditions for the particularly impoverished minoritized populations within those countries. Most famously, the US. You have places in the US that are an absolute mess, that are at a similar tier as places outside of it, and yet we kind of lump these countries together. So to answer the question, is global north or south, like global north, a useful alternative to the West? I think it's also like similarly wonky. I see here, as of 2023, the Brandt line has been criticized for being outdated, yet it's still regarded as a helpful way to visualize global inequalities. Thing is, I really like data, and maps and that sort of thing. So I get these concepts, I get the purposes of these concepts, the uses of these concepts. I don't have a problem with them. I just feel as though they are inflated to be more significant than they actually are, that they are expanded beyond their actual points of usefulness. And that was a very long way of, sharing my thoughts on the matter. Let me keep scrolling in the chat. W's in the chat. I have excellent musical taste. Oh, thank you so much. Do I listen to Mint Green? No. I'll have to check out these recommendations here, though. Pink Shift. Well, okay. I don't want to be like Stolen Valor or whatever. By Paramore. And I know like long-term Paramore fans wouldn't like me saying this. I mean, not like me saying this. But the Paramore album that I listen to the most and I'm most like attached to is After Laughter, which I think for some fans might be considered sacrilegious, but to me that was my first exposure to a full Paramore album other than a couple songs here and there. So it was like my introduction, and it's what I, created a lot of memories around, and I know like most of the songs by heart, so it's just like, to each their own. Yeah, Ashton says, yeah, exactly. It's not specific, and it feels intentionally not specific. Not always intentional, but the phrase itself feels intentionally vague. Yeah, it is. Have I played GeoGuessr? Yes, I have. I don't have like a premium account or whatever, so my ability to play is pretty limited. But I have tried it before. It's been fun. See, I just start yapping and I fall behind in the chat. What is BRICS again? Well, BRICS is Brazil, India, China. Sorry, I skipped one. Brazil. What is the R? Is the R Russia? I think the R is Russia. It's Brazil. I know it's Brazil, it's India, it's China, and it's South Africa. The R might be Russia. Yes, it is. Yeah. I'm still observing this. We'll see what comes of it. I have no positive thoughts on it. I do like the idea of unseating the USD, but at the same time, I'm not a fan of currency as a whole, so it's just, I don't have a dog in this fight, Or, that's kind of an inappropriate expression. I don't have a horse in this race. Also an inappropriate expression, but less violent, I would presume. Blah, blah, blah. The West is a political grouping of the top wealthy settler colonial states and their mother countries. That's how I interpret it. Yeah. I mean, that works. That's in some cases, useful interpretation. But I don't like is when the West is just kind of like treated as this broadly useful concept. So you could just use it for everything. It's just like, oh, the West this and the West that, and Western values and Western institutions. And I mean, what do some of the countries in the West share? When you look at some of the vast cultural disparities, I just feel like the way that some people use the West, particularly on the right, is very useless. Hi, how are you? I'm very good, thank you. Small historical definition. Any area that was widely influenced by Plato, Socrates, all those guys. So areas of the Middle East and Southern Europe historically. So it's his historical definition. Are calling them imperialist nations a better alternative? I don't think so. Because, while historically they have had the greatest impact, like in terms of their imperial activities, I think labeling one grouping of countries as imperialist and excluding other countries kind of creates this misconception that only certain countries are capable of imperialism. Not to excuse the vast levels of imperialism that these imperialistic countries have engaged in, but, you don't want to give the impression that lesser known imperialists are not imperialists, or that there's a sort of essentialist grouping of imperialist states and non-imperialist states, especially when you consider the fact that in some sense all states are driven by the principle of imperialism. Guys love drawing lines on maps. I mean, you got me there. It's actually something I kind of wanted to go through today, but I'm not sure if I will today. I was going through some of my old drawing and writing books, and I found two books from when I was 14 and 15, and I'd come up with like a plan to fix my country, Trinidad and Tobago. And at that point in time, I was not in any way radical. So I kind of wanted to go through it, go through the full plan, and like give my thoughts now as somebody who is very much an anarchist. To answer one person's question, that is my ideology. But to kind of answer that question of, or rather to critique the sort of ideas that I had, and to see which ideas like I still hold to this day, like what makes sense and what doesn't, up to now. Scroll, 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 scroll. Differences between Deep South and Appalachia, yeah. Scroll, scroll, scroll. Scroll. Yeah, Panama's a very interesting history. And I recently watched a video on, I think it was by Real Life Law or whatever, looking at some alternatives they're looking to develop in place of the Panama Canal. Because apparently there's some issues with accessing fresh water to continue that sort of transportation through the canal. But yeah, that was pretty interesting. Panama and the Panama Canal also has a very unique connection to like Caribbean history, because the canal was worked on by a lot of workers from across the Caribbean. In fact, at one point, I don't want to give it like a specific statistic in case it's inaccurate, because I can't recall precisely, but at one point, some percentage of Barbados' economy was based on like remittances from workers working on the Panama Canal. Scroll, 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 scroll. I don't have a thumb in this wrestle. That's hilarious. Oh, hilarious. Honestly, I know there's a particular way to say it, and I grew up saying it one way, and then I started saying it another way recently, and then recently I forgot which way I was saying it, which way I meant to say it, so I ended up saying it both ways, and I kind of just throw in both pronunciations whenever I feel like it. What do you think of the Kabyle village societies, Kabyle history in general? Kabyle. That is a familiar term. Let's do my favorite thing, which is to jump on Wikipedia and type it in. Kabyle. Right, as I thought, it's an Amazigh group. I don't remember. I don't know too much about the history. I don't even know if I pronounce Amazigh correctly, or if it's Amazigh, or if it's Amazigh. I try my best. But if you have something interesting to share about the history or the people, drop it in the chat. Free Palestine. I am not Jamaican, I'm Trinidadian. And I don't find I sound Jamaican at all. I do have a Jamaican accent though. I'm not gonna reveal it, but I do have a Jamaican accent that I keep in my back pocket. I mean, I've revealed my American accent as well. I do a lot of humorous impressions. At least humorous to me, you know. The level of humor for other people is to be debated. I remember I made like a slight like Italian impression in my video on parenting, and there were a couple Italians in the comments who were a bit offended by my what I thought to be accurate pronunciation of Montessori. So and I had like a little bit of face paint with the Italian flag, and I had the little the little Maggie little fingers pressed together and did the whole thing. Like it might have been a bit much in retrospect. But I do like to hold on to my little accents here and there, my various American and British and Australian impressions. The president of Trinidad and Tobago is kind of like a useless position. It would be more accurate to say like Andrew for like prime minister. And funny enough, as I was talking about that little book, those little books I stumbled upon and like my plans, there was a point in time where part of the plan was to become prime minister. That was on my agenda, my timeline of like life. It was supposed to be that so 2026 apparently I'm supposed to get married, and in 2043 I'm supposed to run for prime minister, which does make sense because it's not an election in 2043. But when one is young, right, when one believes in like political systems in that way. Yes, it was very deadly building the Panama Canal. That is true. Reading the comments, gotta love Wikipedia. I think Wikipedia is one of the best things humanity has ever created. Like, I got emotional at the thought of it because I don't know about y'all, but I actually have the Wikipedia app on my phone. I often, because I don't have data, I don't feel like it's worth paying the money for it. I like open up a bunch of tabs in Wikipedia to read when I'm offline. And so at any one point in time, I could have like, right now I have 36 tabs open on my Wikipedia app. I just find it such an incredible like wellspring of knowledge. Who here is also Bayesian? I hardly meet Bayesians. I think similarly to this kind of stuff. Yeah, honestly, like, I want to connect the Caribbean people in the audience, the West Indians in the audience. It's kind of hard too, though, because, like, Discord is not very common in the Caribbean, other than among gamers. And I'm sure a lot of people may not be comfortable sharing like their personal information on like a public place like YouTube. So it's kind of hard to bring those together. But I've always had this idea of like connecting the specifically Caribbean members of my audience in like one place, Also, I don't have a Bayesian accent to share. I would never attempt. You're never gonna hear Yardy, Andrew. Do you know anything about Fort Mose? I think you mean Fort Moses and the Maroon Creole communities in the Great Dismal Swamp, southeastern US and Florida. Yes, Modibo Kadali wrote about it. I didn't read that specific book on it, but I heard about the fact that he had written a book about it. I just hadn't read the book about it. But I was like, like vaguely familiar with it because I had to do some research on the Maroons, more so in a Caribbean context than in a broadly American context, broadly America's context, but I did hear about them, yeah. Your Italian accent made me unreasonably angry. I'm sorry. Oh wait, no, no, no. I think I did read that Crime Think article on the Kabyle. I'm pretty sure I have that in one of my bookmarks. But yeah, there was a Crime Think article. Yes, yes, I read this like years ago, and I found it very, very inspiring. Um, but yes, y'all could probably check out this article. I can't remember the details of it because I read it so long ago. But yeah, I mean, Crime Think is just another great wellspring of knowledge, right? Scroll, scroll, scroll. We are resisting our foolish driving government. Take it at a time. Blah, 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 blah. Malatesta would not approve. How's my Scottish? I don't have a Scottish. I don't have a Scottish accent. Um, I couldn't tell you. I mean, literally, I regularly to this day get comments, despite the fact that I have my flag in my YouTube description and I regularly reference being from Trinidad. I still regularly get people asking me if I'm Jamaican or Welsh. Jamaican, I think, because they could tell I'm Caribbean in some way, but they can't tell what Caribbean, so they just default to Jamaica. And I have some thoughts on that, right? Because Jamaicans, um, we gotta have a conversation at some point, right? That or they say like Welsh. And I've looked up like people speaking in Welsh accent to try and pin down the similarity, but so far I haven't found it or heard it. Um, but yeah, I don't have a Scottish. I don't think I have a good Scottish accent to share. Yes, it's like the president of Ireland, exactly. Um, we have quite similar political systems. What are your thoughts on patriotism? I don't like it. I think it's silly. I get feeling a measure of appreciation for being part of a particular culture, or you know appreciating like the region that you were born in, or the landscape, the geography, the flora, the fauna, the people that you interact with, all those things. That's cool. But the nation state, or the state as a concept, and the idea of patriotism around it is really the biggest trap I could think of. Like being that invested in such an imaginary and illusory and ultimately exploitative concept. Andrew for the abolition of Prime Minister. Agreed. Yeah, nobody knows what the presidents of Caribbean countries do. They just kind of like sit around and get replaced from time to time. How old am I? Ageless. Speaking of elections, excited for 2024 US elections. Looks like Trump versus Biden, the revenge in slow motion. I'm not excited for any elections, particularly not the disaster that tends to be the global disaster. And I say global because it's bacchanal on a global stage, that the US elections tends to be. It dominates, it's boring, you hear the same like recycled arguments, this, that, and the third, every time. It's just like, uh, but I don't have a foot in that shoe, So, actually, let me not even use that expression because technically I do, right? Technically, the whole world has a foot in that shoe. Technically, everybody is impacted by the course of US elections, because of the role of America and American conversation in the internet landscape. the global internet landscape. Um, of course, as we all very well know, foreign policy doesn't really differ between the two parties, um, and yet there are ways in which the impact differs between elections. And that's as much as I want to say about 2024 US elections. It's really not something I'm interested in. I'm not someone invested in electoralism. And speaking, the more time that I spend discussing this, is the longer is the more I increase my chances of this entire live stream and chat being derailed by that discussion. I always have data so I could catch your streams on the go. Oh, thank you, Fireball. It's given your divergence. I'm not, but shout out to those that are. Andrew, do you think long-term interstellar travel can be accomplished with anarchic power structures and solar-punk-style lifestyles? I've shared my thoughts on this before. I'm not really that interested or invested in those goals. Not to say that they are impossible or that they shouldn't be pursued. It's just not something that, to put it frankly, I really care much about. I love space. I love looking at the stars, stargazing, finding out new stuff about space. I'm not really sold on the possibility of or viability of interstellar travel and, interplanetary colonization and that sort of thing. Not my forte. Fireball, you should drop the link to that Discord. Actually, no. You could send me that. Maybe you could send me the link to that Discord on my email, and I'll join it. Let's connect for Carnival. I want to jump and masquerade, but I'm non-binary and I'm uncomfortable. I want a cool community. I am not doing anything for Carnival this year. Last year, I was able to see Camboulet for the first time in person. But yeah, I'm not doing anything this year. It's kind of like I wasn't feeling it like last year into this year. So it kind of ended up becoming too late to do anything. I did check out this one festival that was taking place. It was like an exhibition. And I was just like, Panoramas on Saturday. I might go and see what's happening, but we'll see. Yeah, allegedly Bajans have the worst accent. I think people who say that haven't heard the Belizean accent. Yeah, I said it. Jumping ahead, jumping ahead, jumping ahead, jumping ahead. Jumping ahead, jumping ahead. I appreciate your kind words, Curly Brace. I need to get some water. That's what I need. Some water. Give me a second. I'm gonna go do that. Okay, I'm back. As you could hear by my voice, I have hydrated. I think anarchists and communists learn out from the Big Ten principle. I don't think so. I don't even agree with the existence of the left. So I'm really not invested in it as a concept. And then when you look back at the history of anarchism, and the history of the what we now call the quote unquote left, there have always been significant irreconcilable differences that are not going to be merely brushed away or glossed over in favor of a superficial unity. I spoke about that in my video on leftist unity. Those are still my thoughts on the matter. What? I saw somebody asking something about depopulation. Probably drop that question back again. See, Fireball said it's a mini cricket Discord. I'm not really into cricket, but, you know, I'll be there. You know, I keep thinking that I catch up with the chat and then I fall back out to the chat. Hey, what are your thoughts on India? It's a country, you know. Cool people. There's an extremely large East Indian community in Trinidad. Their contributions to Trinidadian culture have been fantastic, particularly in the realm of cuisine. So love that. Yeah. Very cool. Just going to introduce eco-socialism, degrowth, and more the social movement. How can I help contribute towards those movements? What are some organizations I can help towards? Really depends on your local context. I actually answered a similar question on my Tumblr. If you search on Tumblr, Andrew-ism, you'll find my page, and I actually answered and asked about that today. And my answer was along the lines of, it's very hard to answer this question and questions like these, and I get questions like these pretty often, you know, like, what can I do, how can I help, how can I contribute? And really, I don't know what you personally as an individual can do. I've done a video on like how to change the world, like the various tactics and strategies necessary, you know, oppose and propose, you know, confrontation, non-cooperation, and prefiguration. Yeah, you know, the concept of social revolution. I've spoken about some practical elements, you know. I've talked Puma Blitzes, I've talked about specificist organizations, talked about library economies. I try to at least throw in some measure of practicality at the end, at least at the end of some of my videos, if the video isn't focused on it. And one sec. Oy right. So yeah, so it's like it's really hard to answer this question in a like to address like your specific context, because I don't know what it is. You know, I don't know if you're in school. I don't know what kind of neighborhood you live in. Do you live in an urban area, rural area, suburban area? Do you go to a church? Do you attend like a religious institution? Are you part of any clubs? Are you a regular in any cafes? Like, what's the library situation like in your place? Like, what are your social connections in your area? You live in an apartment? You know, like, there's so many factors that would go into like how you as an individual could contribute. Like, what are the current movements in your area? Have you looked into them? Have you checked like Facebook or whatever? Are there any protest spaces? Are there any college campuses? Like, there's so many things that go into like how you might be able to connect with other people, what opportunities present themselves. As I told the person in my response, in fact, I should probably just read the response. But as I told the person in the response, I hate to corporate speak it, but you had to take a look at the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. You had to do a little SWOT analysis. I think that can answer your question for you better than I can, as somebody who is not, abreast of your situation. Andrew Dash Ism. I hate that when I type in my name, Andrew Tate is like the first suggestion. Like, that's just disgusting to me. But yeah, I did a little Tumblr. I've had the Tumblr for a while. I've always been on Tumblr, but little response. Right. I think the most sustainable and efficient course of action. The person asked, hello, I'm from the Philippines and currently pushing for liberation from the colonized mindset that permeates through our everyday life, as well as mutual aid initiatives to mitigate economic disparity. Your videos have been eye-opening for me, and I was wondering, what do you think are the most sustainable and efficient courses of action? I have leadership experience in grassroots movements, but I find it quite difficult to organize as I struggle to find like-minded people. I said, I think the most sustainable and efficient courses of action are entirely context-dependent, and it's tough for me to give the people who ask me this question specific recommendations without a fully detailed description of their unique situation. As much as I hate to borrow from corporate speak, it might be helpful to do a SWOT analysis of your area to identify the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats present in unique context. Maybe someday I'll make a video going into that idea in more detail. It may also have to do a resilience assessment. I found Think Resilience's self-directed course to be quite helpful in explaining this way of thinking in a concise manner. It's also completely free. I fully relate to the struggle to find like-minded people, and it certainly continues to be a challenge in my own local efforts. If/when I find an easy solution to this, you'll be the first to know. What I can suggest for now is that you seek out not necessarily like-minded people, but perhaps like-invested people. Meaning seek out groups that are already doing some sort of social, political, environmental, educational activism, but may not necessarily share your radicalism, and try to work/build relationships with them that naturally create opportunities for you to radicalize their efforts and tactics and spread anarchic and decolonial ideas. Of course, doing this solo comes at the risk of your own radicalism being watered down, especially in more institutional spaces, like NGOs and that sort of thing, which is why as pacifists recommend you engage in social insertion within movements as a group rather than as individuals. And then, I sent them to my video, Social Revolution and stuff as well. And all power to all the people in the Philippines. Shout out to the Philippines. Yeah, that's really as much as I can give, as much as I can help with. And Cameroon is right here, and Paraguay is down here, and Jordan is over here, and Argentina is here, and Honduras is... Which one is Honduras again? Honduras is... Crap, I always mix them up. Right. Yeah, back to what I was saying. Great. I really have a lot of trouble with the oceanic islands for now. But anyway, that's my response. That's as much as I can give for now. Remember, I'm still learning myself. So when I have more solutions, more ideas, more projects, you're all the first to know. That's how I choose the topics to make videos of. What I'm learning about is what I make videos on. I spoke about some favorite musical artists earlier in the stream. To reiterate, I listen to a lot of Charles Gambino and MF Doom and Toby Lou and Frank Ocean and a little bit of Uzi Vert, some Jelani Aryeh, some Paramore, some Kate Renata, Rihanna, Solange, Chanel, SZA, Chloe and Haley, Steve Lacy, Masego, Willow, The Weeknd, etc., 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 etc. But I don't really particularly listen to lyrics discussing social, political, environmental, revolutionary themes. If I stumble upon a song that is, cool in that regard, I think Black Pumas might be what you're looking for. It's been a while since I've listened to them, but I believe they have songs that have a bit more of a radical flair to them. Or I'm confusing them with somebody else, and yeah. There's also, how you call this guy? Killer Mike has some radical stuff, if I recall correctly. Um, but I'm not a person to like give good recommendations, honestly. When it comes to music, I just kind of like I have some eclectic tastes at times. Like I was telling them, like recently I've been listening to a lot of that Phil Collins sound, that Marvin Gaye sound, you know? Do I like football? I love football. I play football every single week. Um, Casually, of course, it's like small goal football, what we in Trinidad would call a sweat. Yeah, a sweat once a week. And it is fantastic. I honestly, sometimes I crave it. And I'm not like the best on the field or anything. I think I'm pretty good in the defensive positions, and I'm just working on my ability to control the ball and um, control my, I suppose, control my touches as well. Control my ability to trap the ball, and also I want to get some more experience in a striking position, in the more forward positions, because I mean I'm trying to score some goals, you know. Do you listen to grunge or punk rock? No. The only kind of like what I would call grungy music that I listen to is like a Swiss friend of mine introduced me to this German song. Let me see if I could find it, by a guy called Rammstein, right? And it's like, right? But that's like the extent of it. And I found out he's like kind of a bad person as well, um, allegedly. So yeah, I haven't really listened to that song in a while. But that's about the extent of my engagement with grunge or punk rock. You're right. Trying to catch up with the chat is indeed a fool's errand. I should just ignore it. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm. I want to engage with this all the different stuff I'm getting, but I continue to cooperate it. You know. Um, what's your opinion on the leftist argument of real or successful revolution? I think it neglects the much smaller actions revolutions allow the big ones to happen. For one, I think that we're forgetting the fact that we're coming from entirely different theoretical backgrounds and and conceptualizations of revolution. You can't really have a discussion about revolution or what constitutes success when they come in from two completely different theoretical positions and means and ends. Like none of those things are like consistent. So, which is why like I just don't bother engaging with the concepts of the left. I try to ignore. I basically ignore it, you know, because I just don't find it useful. Um, yeah, no Bugatti. Da, 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 da. I love geography. I'm not gonna skip. I'm not gonna skip. I'm not gonna skip any of these countries. I'll do some more just now. Do you have any book recs on anarchist lens on the issues of legitimacy, elitism, layman's knowledge, and fighting anti-intellectualism? No. But if I do find a book on the subject, that sounds pretty interesting. None come to mind immediately. I'll give it some thought. I think there is a Radiohead song that I've listened to recently. Let me see if I can find it. Somebody's saying that I might like Radiohead. It's possible. It's possible. No, I don't think so. Run the Jewels is good. Red Veil, yeah, I do listen to Red Veil. Well, say listen to Red Veil. I've heard of some Red Veil songs. Listen to Red Veil kind of makes it sound like I'm like a fan or whatever when I'm not up to date. This is a hold up for the anarchist book, so we're requiring all the book recs. I'm glad you asked, because actually today I went through my book recommendations list and kind of like rearranged some things. Here's the updated and expanded, well, the updated Androism reading list. I'm trying to keep it short because I don't like this idea of having to like send a bunch of books to people and be like, here's this list. So in brief, I'll tell you to read An Anarchist Program by Eric Testa. It's very short. Read To Change Everything by Crime Think. It's a very short introductory article and a lot of the concepts that anarchists talk about. Read Anarchy Works for a contemporary Anarchy Works by Peter Gelderloos, An Anarchist Program by Eric Testa. Anarchy Works by Peter Gelderloos is a really good contemporary expansion of a lot of anarchist ideas, and it answers a lot of the questions that people tend to have about anarchism. Prefigurative Politics by Paul Reichstadt and Sofa Shaugradin is very practical. It goes into some of the history and some of the theory as well, but it also offers some practical guidelines too. And Anarchism and Black Revolution by Lorenzo Camboa Irvin is a really great introduction to black anarchic radical politics. Boom. You don't have to rob the anarchist bookstore, by the way. All of the books are free. Do you have a favorite football club? I am genetically Manchester United and Barcelona. I don't really, keep up with either of them the way that some sports fans do. But when I say genetically, I mean I inherited my affiliation to those football clubs. Free Palestine. I mean, what other stands can there be? Ramsey and fuck. I don't know. Listen, I actually don't pay much attention to any of these like genres, right? So I don't know the distinguishments and what separates like some of these. Like I don't really know the distinction between grunge versus punk versus hard metal necessarily. I see they're industrial metal. The person did ask me about grunge and metal, I think. So I answered their question. I don't know what New Douche Heart is though. NDH rock music. Okay. Yeah, bad people are creative. I mean, that's why now I'm not even going to share the artists, all the artists I listen to, but there are some very creative bad people. Am I making roti for dinner? No, that's a very lengthy process. I don't have the wherewithal to do that. So no, I'm not having roti for dinner. I just had some Kraft mac and cheese for a very late lunch because I overworked myself today and didn't eat. And later on, I'm going to have some sandwiches and probably some oatmeal and quail tonight. I really enjoy the episodes on the Luddite movements, and it could happen here. I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, I am quite far behind. I'm not ignoring the messages. You group Kendrick in with people like Kanye, DJ Khaled, and Cat Williams. I learned recently DJ Khaled is Palestinian. I mean, that has nothing to do with anything you're talking about. But I learned recently DJ Khaled is Palestinian, which was very surprising. Is all I would say. That kind of suffering from success. Yeah. In a sense, I see what you mean. Favorite solar punk fiction. I mean, I did write an introduction to a solar punk anthology. Edited by Phoebe Wagner. It's called Fighting for the Future. But favorite solar punk fiction. I don't really have like a favorite one. I can't really call a favorite one. There are ones I like. Ecotopia is like vaguely solar punk. Walk Away, if you like Squint, could be considered solar punk. Yeah. Andrew, do you like tabletop games? I do. I have a D&D game that I play with some friends. Tame Impala always hits real. Anarchy.works. Yeah, just go on anarchy.works. You get both the Anarchist FAQ and Anarchy Works, the book. I also cannot make roti. Family, I have family that can though. Who am I backing in a fight, One Punch Man or Bugs Bunny? Well, Bugs Bunny kind of follows cartoon rules, but One Punch Man's whole thing is that he can't be beaten. I think there have been situations where Bugs Bunny has been outsmarted or, is the word foisted? Is the word foisted? Is the word foisted? No, not foisted. There's a word that sounds like foisted. Hold on. This, by the way, when I'm writing YouTube videos, this is what I do at least every 20 minutes. See? Word synonym. It's not foisted I was thinking of trounced. Was I thinking of trounced? Foiled. Could be foiled. I could have been thinking of foiled. But yeah, I think it's foiled. Foisted, foiled. It makes more sense than foist. Trounced. Yeah, I mean, Bugs Bunny has been foiled before, so I think it's very possible for One Punch Man to defeat Bugs Bunny. Have I read Sam for the Wild Built? Yes, I have. Very cute. Short and sweet. I've read both of them. Well, both books in like the little 2-book series. Did you watch the Grammys? Do you even care? No. I never watched any of those award shows. What type of content do you watch outside of radical stuff? I watch a lot of... The only TV show that I've been watching consistently recently, well, I watched out some Top Boy. I watched Amazing World of Gumball. I'm currently watching It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I'm also watching Succession. I haven't finished it yet. I'm also watching Invincible. I mean, I'm caught up on those, so it's just like waiting for the next part to come out. And in terms of YouTube, I watch like all kind of things, but I watch a lot of like Paradox Games stuff, particularly like Crusader Kings 3 and Victoria 3. I watch like film YouTubes, you know, I watch like Schifferless Productions, and I say Schifferless Productions because that's like the first video that's coming up when I pull up my subscription feed, and a couple others. I mean, I'm subscribed to like hundreds upon hundreds of people. Yeah, hope that answers the question. Scroll. Have I watched Atlanta? Of course. Atlanta's the best show. Atlanta's a fantastic show. Do you listen to soulpunk, so-fi, or lo-fi? No, I actually haven't heard of those genres. I know about lo-fi, and I do listen to, well, I used to listen to a lot of lo-fi. I don't really listen to lo-fi anymore. These days I'm listening to a lot of jazz, and a lot of The Caretaker. Like, a lot of The Caretaker. I don't know what that says about my mood, that I've been listening to a lot of The Caretaker, but yeah, not too much lo-fi these days. No, I didn't watch Southside. I haven't heard of that one. My favorite food? I don't really have a favorite food. The caretaker, are you okay? Have I seen I'm a Virgo? No, I haven't yet. It's on my list though. Um let me see, let me see, let me see. Let me pull out my media list. I have to start The Bear still. I have to watch Dreaming Whilst Black. Haven't caught up with Loki. Still watching Upload. I also watched Solar Opposites. I'm waiting for the final season of Curb Your Enthusiasm dropped recently. I haven't watched it yet, or at least the first episode. Love that show. Abbott Elementary, waiting for that to drop again. Severance, Smiling Friends, The Sandman, Peacemaker, Bel Air, Godfather of Harlem, Rick and Morty, Extraordinary, What If. I could take off What If from this list. I'm not going to rewatch that. Blue Lock, Chainsaw Man, Gen V, Ghosts, Star Trek Lower Decks, Harley Quinn, The White Lotus, One Punch Man. Yeah, I have a lot of stuff to keep up with. Would you do a video about Succession's capitalism? Oh, I listen to a lot of Afrobeats, by the way, Born Liberated. But would I do a video about Succession? I don't really do video about like media. I'm not really into like media analysis in terms of me myself writing it. I would definitely, I would watch other people talk about it, but me doing media analysis, like, it's not really for me. Rosenkreutz, yeah, I watch all of Rosenkreutz's videos on Paradox's games. Small channel, but also highly recommend. Haven't heard of Trailer Park Boys. If you like Atlanta, you'd like Southside, I'll definitely check it out. Have I read Animal Farm? Yes, I have, multiple times. Even before I learned about any of the concepts that the book was critiquing. No, I don't watch Eric Andre. I do have a Discord. I'll drop the link at the end of the stream. Anyway, I literally titled the stream. What did I title it again? Geography Games, Talking Time Travel. And I've barely played the geography game, and I have not talked time travel. So to speak about time travel, I want to spark a sort of discussion, right? Which is, what would you introduce into human history if you had a time machine? Like, what would you introduce before its time? Like, if you could go back and meddle, like you had to meddle, you couldn't just go back and observe or just chill out or whatever, what would you go back and change? It could be multiple things. It could be one or two things. You could like introduce something, you could take away something, you have a couple options. Also, you have I wouldn't add that caveat. But yeah, so what would you introduce? What would you change? And while you're thinking about that, have I read The Island by Aldous Huxley? Yes, I have. Am I excited about Avatar: Last Airbender Netflix live action adaptation? You don't have to yell. Take off the caps lock. I know I'm not particularly excited for it. I don't like it when I don't like live action adaptations of existing animated properties. Yeah, so somebody said solar panels. Someone said they would give the dinosaurs fire. Somebody said batteries. Can't stop thinking about the butterfly effect and all the repercussions. Someone said healthcare for smallpox. Someone said they dropped Hendrix's discography during the Renaissance. Oh, that's good. Remove agriculture. I get the motivation, but I do disagree. I just think the way that agriculture turned out just like in hindsight, that we could have taken a different approach. Take away nukes makes sense. You'd convince the Moors to invade England instead of France. Right. Well, I think they would have to develop. They'd have to develop their navy. You're talking about like the Battle of Tours, right? Which they lost against France, which prevented them from pushing further into Europe beyond the Iberian Peninsula. It would be very funny if that would be a very funny divergence in history, I think. But probably not necessarily a positive change. Not to say I didn't say you had to go back and make a positive change. But conquest is not necessarily is not, of course, conquest is not a positive change. But it's an interesting one. The Crusader Kings fan in me has actually done that scenario before. I started in Iberia and I pushed into the UK, and I established like a Britannia that was entirely Andalusian. So instead they'd go back and oh god, I lost it. Let me pause these. I go back and prevent supply side economics from taking root. Kalashnikovs to Africa before colonialism started. I like that concept, but then at the same time, in order for that to have the positive defensive effect, you would need to introduce some notion of Pan-Africanism to the continent in the first place. Otherwise, those weapons are just going to be used between nations and groups that did not see any allegiance. You'd have to first develop a sense of unity and camaraderie that didn't exist prior to colonization in order to resist colonization before it happens, So I don't think it's enough to just like hand over the weapons. You kind of have to establish a consciousness of, Pan-Africanism, of unification, of defense, of collaboration across ethnic groups and that kind of thing. Modern medicine, I mean, that's pretty vast, but that's a good effort. Writing, I absolutely agree. Introducing writing even earlier, and particularly like on the broader scale, would be fantastic, I think. I think the print and press is one of the best inventions we've ever done as a species. I know everything that came out after that. So I just think being able to disseminate knowledge earlier, it would have its, negatives, but I think it's overwhelmingly a positive for our species. Vaccines, yeah. Introduce vaccines early. Introduce larger, more easier to domesticate animals to the Americas in hopes that they would help build immunity to diseases and therefore even the playing field between old and new worlds. It's an interesting thought. So instead remove nukes, anti-anthropocentrism. Warn my ancestors about the transatlantic slave trade and give them ways to defend themselves. Real. I would give Little B's discography to the Mesopotamians. I would convert them to the Church of the Based God. The one and only Athelias Maximus people. Introduce Neolithic people to the scientific method. Makes sense. The Moors and Berbers had a great navy, though. I didn't know that, actually. Learned something new today. Let's go crazy. Want to domesticate bears instead of wolves. You'll have to go pretty early, I think, because remember, if I recall correctly, there weren't any bears in Africa where humans evolved. And so they did not evolve between, like, they didn't co-evolve, So you wouldn't see that sort of domestication unless they co-evolved the way that wolves and humans co-evolved. If my understanding is correct. Introduce library socialism. Introduce the concepts of hierarchy, pedagogy of the oppressed. Teach them germ theory, real. I'm listening to all your answers before I give my own, because I made like a whole like document about bring bears to Africa. Teach early humans how to produce sliced bread. Give modern tanks to the CNT FAI. Huh. Can I get something from the future and give it to the Zapatistas now? Real. Go back and prevent Citizens United. Yeah, we are all nerds. Introduce J Dilla to Europeans and make them quiver in the face of the sampling god. So true. In fact, you have to introduce J Dilla and Nujabes as like a package deal though, you know? Introduce them both. Like, blow their minds. If you're gonna go big, you know, it's like go big or go home, you know? Do a blunt rotation with my hunter-gatherer ancestors. Give JFK a helmet. Give Einstein a Rubik's Cube. Convert the Vikings to Islam. End capitalism. Create a religion that's scientifically accurate and encourage partnership instead of colonialism. Give the Zapatistas anti-grav boots. Give the indigenous groups vaccines before settler colonialism. Introduce HRT to ancient Romans. Give machine guns to Saladin. Or Saladin. Show young nations the horror of the IMF and World Bank. Real. So here's my list. Scientific method. Literacy, print and press. Sanitation, germ theory, washing hands. Soaps. Saline. Boil water before drinking it. Here's a map of the world. Here's a universal system of measurement. Actually, that wasn't necessarily a necessity. I think it can be useful for encouraging collaboration though. Periodic table. Boom. Algebra. One time. Warn people about lead and mercury and arsenic early on. Boom. Ban bloodletting, you know. Introduce the needle. Introduce underwear. Introduce the straight stitch machine. Introduce the flying shuttle and the spinning jenny earlier. Introduce silk. Introduce cotton gin. Introduce jersey fabric. Introduce zippers. Introduce Velcro. Introduce crocheting. Introduce buttons. Introduce footwear. Improve plows. Fix the nutrient deficiencies within crops earlier. Introduce pasteurization. Introduce fishing reels, vegetable peelers, pencils, washboards, windmills, compasses, binoculars, lathes, telegraphs, electricity, hot air balloons, and bicycles. Thank you very much. Literal utopia. Hang out in Baghdad during the Golden Age. Prevent my people from being enslaved by the Aztec and later Spanish empires. Have the Mongols conquer Eurasia and Africa with advanced weapons. In brackets, have gender equality and literacy super early. Give HRT to the cast of Scythian and transform priestesses. Make the colonizers live in the full of trash. Oh, I don't have any goofy answers. Like, I actually took this question seriously. I would not give dinosaurs a means to defend themselves. Warn them about the horrors of plastics. That's the thing. Plastic is such a great invention. It was just, in my opinion, it was overused. It has some good functions. You know, just show Marx and Engels' Soviet history. Marx was kind of stubborn, though. Yes, Marx could have clarified certain things a bit better. But you kind of see in his bickering with Bakunin that he was kind of boxing a shadow. He wasn't really engaging with or trying to understand Bakunin's understanding of the world, I think. So you have to like deal with Marx's stubbornness. Then again, if Marx took an anarchist turn, I don't even know if necessarily if Marx would be as influential as he is today. Because part of why I think Marx has ended up being so influential is because of how his theories and analyses were able to be used by and adapted and adopted in very flexible ways, including in ways that would reify the state. Even if that wasn't his intention, and some people argue that he wasn't a statist. But either way, if he wasn't a statist, I don't think he would have had the level of influence. If his ideas were more crystal clear, if he actually had like an anti-hierarchical bent, I don't think he would have had the level of influence that he does today, because rulers would not be able to as easily co-opt his ideas for their own ends. Go back to the agricultural revolution and prevent the dominance of the state system of monoculture to allow diverse communities based on agriculture to thrive and expand. That works. That works. How long have I been streaming? An hour and a half? Hour and 23 minutes. Okay. Reluctant to... Yeah, Marx would be reluctant to admit McHale was right during the First International, but he would definitely be sobered by Leninism. I would hope so. I would hope so. What's your vision for a Soap Caribbean? I'm writing a book on that, kind of. Taking away humans' knowledge of gasoline. I would think I would try to interrupt the over-excitement around cars to reduce our level of development of car-dependent infrastructure. I'd really try and emphasize trains more. Ugh, my throat is starting, like my voice is starting to get sore. Oh yeah. That's pretty much my take on time travel technology. My educational background is just a bachelor's mass communication and a love of learning. Well, actually, we should go earlier than the Catholics, nipping the Roman Empire in the bud, since the Catholic Church was a continuation of it. Honestly, you could do a lot of different things. You could probably nip the Roman Empire in the bud. That's a good idea. The blueprint the Roman Empire left still reverberates to this day. So getting rid of it is probably a good idea. And the other thing is, if we had to go back to like the beginning of Christianity, one thing I'd probably do is disrupt two things, or one or two things, maybe both of them. I would disrupt the establishments, the Nicene Creed, that led to the persecution of non-Nicene Christian sects. And also, I think I would prevent Christianity from becoming the state religion of the Roman Empire, because that, led to a lot of ideological shifts, I think. Have cricket become a global sport without the British Empire? As a cricket not enjoyer, let me keep that to myself. How's life in Trinidad and Tobago? It's going. Thoughts on the function and use of the word tanky. It's the first time I think that's the first time I've said that word out loud. I don't really use it. I think it's kind of goofy to say. I get what people are trying to communicate, even though it sometimes loses its meaning in certain circles. I get what people are trying to say with it. I think Bad Mouse had a great 2 videos on the topic. But my thoughts on it is just it's not a term that I use or care to use. Um, I don't really engage with that section of the internet. Um, I'm just kind of trying to do my own thing. Tell people in Trinidad not to develop sugaroness. Yeah, they need to stop trying to treat sugaroness like it's a mini USA car-centric hellscape with all these strip malls. I don't know why they're building up sugaroness like that. It's disgusting. Okay. You're right. I am declining. Stream fatigue is starting to kick in. But I want to finish this map, so I'm going to do that. Yeah. Let me finish the map and also talk about... Right, so where's Nauru? I'm just going to click around a bit. There we are. Tanzania is down here. Guinea is over here. Kenya is here. Netherlands up here. No. Here. Right. Togo is over here. Hungary is... Hold on. That's Poland. This is Hungary. No. Hungary. There we go. Grenada is here. Bolivia here. Niger here. DRC, New Zealand. Australia. Antigua and Barbuda. Nigeria. Liechtenstein. Poland. Barbados. Andorra. Denmark. Serbia. Hold on. Serbia. They need to zoom in. They need to create like a zoomed in thing. Serbia is... No, Serbia is in the Balkans. There it is. Okay. I don't play enough Victoria 3 in that region, that's why. San Marino is here. No, it's here. Right. Iceland is up here. St. Vincent and the Grenadines is here. Guatemala is here. Kazakhstan is the big one. Colombia is right here. Bhutan is over here. Tuvalu is one of these. Let me just yeah, I'm not even gonna try with that region. Equatorial Guinea that's Gabon. So Equatorial Guinea is there. Norway is here. United Arab Emirates. Nope. UAE is here. Somalia. Cuba. Saudi Arabia. Peru. Mongolia. Oman. Benin. Costa Rica. Guyana. Ecuador. Malawi. Mozambique. Azerbaijan. USA. Maldives, right. Rwanda. Syria. Uzbekistan. Slovenia. Right, okay. Need to work on the Balkans. El Salvador. Finland. Venezuela. Turkmenistan. Yemen. How am I getting all these right? I was guessing for those, except for Kazakhstan, I was guessing for those. Yemen. Belarus. Cabo Verde. Morocco. Malta. Uganda, Sao Tome and Principe, Latvia. Latvia is one of the Baltic. I think I mixed up Baltic and Balkan just now. Did I misspeak earlier? Possibly. But Latvia is one of these. Right. Lesotho. Dominican Republic. Fiji. 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 Right. Lithuania. 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 Right. North Korea. And yes, I'm gonna forget things that I previously saw. It's a thing that happens. Brunei is of course this one here. Vietnam. Boom. Papua New Guinea is over here. Chile down here. Angola. What are we doing for Angola, eh? Right here. South Africa, of course. Marshall Islands. One of these that I would have clicked on previously, right? Libya. South Sudan. Moldova. Moldova. Moldova? No, that's Monaco. Where's Moldova again? No, I think it's next to Romania. Yeah. Myanmar. Right here. The Gambia is a river. Mauritius. Mauritius is the islands. This is Comoros. I think this is Mauritius. No, Seychelles. Right. My bad. Singapore is here. Monaco, right, is here. Philippines. Vanuatu. Thailand. Samoa. Oh, Samoa. Remind me where you are, Samoa. Right, tiny. Czech Republic. Czechia. Senegal. Croatia. I know where Croatia is. It's here. No, that's Bosnia. It's here. No, that's Austria. It's here. That's Slovakia. Yeah, I knew it was somewhere here. I just can't really click properly. Eswatini. Lebanon. Republic of the Congo. Nepal. Ethiopia. Dominica. Cote d'Ivoire. France. Liberia. Romania. Burkina Faso. Do I give geography lessons? No. I just like playing this game. Just checking the chat for a second here. Yeah, I've seen Americans leave off New Zealand from maps. I was going to make a joke about it earlier. Zimbabwe, North Macedonia, not to be confused with Macedonia. It's, gosh, I can't really click properly. It's this tiny one there. Right. Georgia, which is over here, not to be confused with the American state of Georgia. We have Palau, which is over there, right. Indonesia, everybody knows that one. Luxembourg is down here. Bangladesh, Chad, Spain, Kiribati. So I need to get back to practicing that side of the world. Turkey, Canada, Gabon, Trinidad and Tobago, big up. Cyprus, Armenia, Montenegro, Russia, Eritrea. Where's Eritrea again? Right. It's up here. Iraq. Boo. Cambodia. Seychelles, Namibia, Djibouti, Booty, Guinea-Bissau, Albania. No, Albania is so tiny it's hard to click. Ukraine, China, Sudan, CAR, Afghanistan, St. Kitts and Nevis, Italy, Solomon Islands, which are one of these, Tunisia, or Tunisia, Estonia, Panama, Sweden, the Bahamas, click over here I guess, Algeria, Slovakia, Zambia. Zambia has the waterfall called Mosi Watunya, erroneously known as Victoria Falls. The indigenous name for it, one of the indigenous names for it is Mosi Watunya. And that is the name that I have decided to call it, because I'd be damned if I call a waterfall in Africa Victoria. You get me? Burundi, Mexico, Bahrain, Kuwait, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Nicaragua, Pakistan, Federated States of Micronesia, Botswana, Mauritania, Portugal, Belgium, Egypt, South Korea, India, Qatar, St. Lucia, Brazil, I love Brazil, Madagascar, Tonga is there, Uruguay, Malaysia, Iran, East Timor, also known as Timor-Leste, Comoros, Mali, Ghana, Austria, Greece, UK, Sierra Leone, Tajikistan. Yay! Fantastic. 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 What would it take for you to play Kaiserreich with me? I actually don't play Hoi 4. I don't play Hoi 4 and I don't play EU 4. Hoi 4 because I'm not interested in that time period. EU 4 because I can't get into it. If they make an EU 5, I could get into it from like the ground floor. That's how I ended up getting into Crusader Kings 3, because I got into it early. Same with Victoria 3. But EU 4, like, I really can't. My voice is pretty much entirely gone. And yeah, it's 82, but some of those were misclicks, you know, give me some cred. Some of those were misclicks. Yeah, abolish all borders though. Like, let's do that. Y'all, it's been good. It's been fun. It's been cool. Some time travel. I chilled. I chatted. Answered some questions. I did not go through young Andrew's plans for when he would become Prime Minister of Trinidad in 2043. But that's okay. I'll talk about that in a future live stream. We'll go through it together. Y'all have a good night, or a good day, a good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whatever.